Hello and welcome to
At,
Marriage Minute.
at its pace.
Go ahead. No, don't stop it. See how when I go ahead and talk.
We had improper communication. So why don't you go ahead?
So you want me to say it?
Yes, please.
Should I say Marriage Minutes or At Its Pace or both?
Both.
Welcome to Marriage Minutes at His Pace. Today, as we stated in our previous vitamin shot or Marriage Minutes, we were going to talk about the characteristics of a good marriage. So we're looking at this article entitled 12 Characteristics of a Successful Marriage by Natalia Walcott. And the reason why that is important to us is because we realize that character defines you, but really it also determines you or determines your marriage. So we want to lay down a good foundation and talk about those strengths and areas of growth that we have in our marriage in regard to these 12 topics. We'll talk about 6 today and then 6 next time. All right. So the first one is communication, honey. Do we have good communication, bad communication, sometime communication? It depends on the day how we get up in the morning communication.
I think communication, it just depends on what life is pressing against the relationship. I think there's days when communication is great. And I think there's days where we don't learn anything and communication is very poor. I know as much as I strive to have better communication, I still do the same thing that always just unnerves you. So I got to continually work on having better communication and really identify or just stop doing what I do.
Okay, so what happens when we have good bouts of communication? What are we doing?
Listening.
Not interrupting each other.
There it is, right there.
Got that bad.
Yeah, very bad.
I just did that.
Always want to get your point across. Always want to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think good communication is just when we're going back and forth, and I'm validating what she says and how important it is, adding something to the conversation. And I never start my point with the word but, because that seems to undermine everything that was said prior to the but. And that really what comes after the but is more so what I really think or what I feel.
Something I heard a few weeks back and I adopted it for a few days and then I stopped. It's when somebody is speaking to you, it's do you want comfort or do you want solutions? Because there are times when I just want you to hear me. I don't want you to figure it out. I don't want you to tell me that I'm right or wrong. I just want you to hear me. Mm-hmm. And so I think that if you adopt little tricks like that in regard to your communication, and you know what? Be fair to the person. Like, is this a good time for them to talk? Or are they in the midst of doing their own thing where you know that they're not going to give you undivided attention? And I think that having those specific times set aside in the day gives you time to prepare. I mean, you don't go into a business meeting at work and not have your agenda. There's a plan to how we talk to each other, but we take that for granted in marriage, I think.
Yep. The second characteristic of a good marriage is admiration and respect. I think most men always want to be respected. I think women want to be respected. I think the admiration piece is huge. You want to be admired and
your shoulders are really big.
Lifted up for maybe things that you do or that you add to the relationship, things that you do for the household. Good decisions that have been made that have benefited the family, good decisions that have not allowed the family to maybe come into a difficult situation. And so respect goes both ways. And so you always want to not take each other for granted, but you want to, at some point in time, communicate that you do respect them, that you do appreciate them for everything that they do. And as difficult as it is in this world now, you always want to just make sure that you speak life into each other.
Companionship is the next characteristic that we want to discuss. And I think that early on in your marriage, maybe this is easier to do because sometimes early in marriage, you don't have those same obstacles that you might have once you have children and new jobs and new things. But I think it all comes down to intentionality. We have talked several times about date nights on here and being intentional, and we don't do a good job with that. But I will say, in those weeks that we are intentional about sitting down, and even if it's just 15 minutes, like that ought to be on your calendar. 15 minutes, I am going to be able to talk to my spouse without falling asleep, without, I didn't do anything. I mean, I did. Okay, I did. That was the point.
We ain't got 5 minutes away from respect and admiration. Wow. Okay, you just couldn't say your part. You just had to. Anyway, next point.
Wait, but did we talk about that enough? You don't have anything to say about companionship? Just being intentional.
I think companionship evolves. I think it doesn't necessarily have to be what the world states as a date night. I think you can have companionship making a meal together. You can have companionship going to the store together. You can have companionship. You have to engage in the time that you have, not necessarily where the time is spent, or defined by world standards. Oh, we got to go out on a date. You can have companionship driving to pick up your daughter from somebody's house. You can have companionship in so many different aspects. And so I think it's not necessarily the time that you set aside, but when you're together, is that good quality time? Is that good wholesome communication? Is that good connecting in just a little time? I mean, driving to the grocery store or driving wherever, or, doing whatever, washing a load of clothes together. I mean, whatever it is, cleaning the garage out together. I mean, there are so many microscopic pieces of time. Don't ask me, where that word come from? I know. There's just so many small chunks of time in which we just throw to the side that are actually good opportunities to have good companionship.
Be intentional.
Be intentional.
Or whatever you're doing.
The next one is spirituality and values. I think this one is challenging because I think the world's moral fabric is challenging some of the values that maybe we grew up with. I know spirituality is definitely challenged coming out of COVID or dealing with COVID, and just getting back to a baseline of what it means to be in relationship with your creator. I think that the challenging aspect of it is trying to get back to something that was 4 years ago. I can't get back to that, and if I haven't maintained that, then I have to know the core of what got me to that point and go back to that and re-practice that to get back up. And you actually will be on an accelerated trajectory in terms of your spirituality because you've been there, but you just have to plug back into where you were to get back to here and not try to relive 2019.
I think the sermon was really perfect today in talking about those are tools. So watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, those are tools, but those resources should not supersede the source, right? And so if your devotion is a culmination of watching 4 YouTube videos and there's no prayer life, there's no Bible study, there's no authenticity in your relationship with God, then your spirituality is going to be off personally and in your relationship. So it comes down to individuals too.
Yep, absolutely.
Commitment is the next one. And I think that for me and Mark, we set a precedent years ago that divorce was not an option for us. And so I think sometimes when you say that, you kind of say it kind of offshooting, but I do really feel like it has been a foundation for us because there are times when I have wanted a divorce and I am 100% and 10% positive that there are 100% positive. I don't know what I'm trying to say, that Mark has wanted a divorce, but that comes down to the decision that we've made. And at the end of the day, after I fuss and fight, I'm like, whatever. So
I make that little mac and cheese and then make that brisket and them ribs.
And I stay.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's a bribe.
Whatever it takes. Oh. The last one that we're going to discuss this week is affection. And so I think
much bigger you are on the screen than I am. It's broad shoulder.
That's affection. And so you have to find those times in which you express affection to one another just to reinforce your love and your like for them and how important you are to them and they are to you. I think you have to identify those moments, and doesn't necessarily always mean the end result being in the upper room, but it does mean that you are expressing your love in a variety of different ways, and you are showering each other with affection.
Okay, so those are the 6. Let's go over them right quick and we're done.
We're going to go backwards.
Oh, go ahead.
Affection,
Yes,
commitment,
yes,
spirituality and values,
mhm.
companionship, admiration and respect, and communication. So think about those 6. Which do you identify with? Which can you say are good characteristics of our marriage? And we'll get back with the next 6 next week.
Be well.
Be well, be blessed.